Members of the boards of trustees, President McMahon, faculty, staff, family, guests, and graduates of the class of 2023, I am incredibly honored to be with you today attending my second commencement from this esteemed institution, especially given how shocked people were that I actually graduated the first time. Thank you, Dr. McMahon, for the kind introduction. We should all strive to be the person in our introductions and eulogies, I will tell you. I would also like to recognize a few special guests in the audience. Jane, my wife of almost 30 years, my mom, Patricia, who drove me to GMI 41 years ago, and my lifelong friend, Dave Masana, who went to elementary school with me and whose brilliant son, David, will be graduating from Kettering next year. First, let me say congratulations to my fellow Kettering classmates. I'm happy to welcome you to this special club of Kettering alumni. We all share a common bond, which is trying to explain to our friends and employers exactly how this 5-year, 11-week work school, A section, B section thesis thing actually works. Or as I do now, I just say, it's where Mary Barra went. For me, Kettering, and then at the time GMI, was my dream school. When I got my acceptance letter, I was done. I never visited the campus. I think I may have seen a photo of the bell tower in a brochure somewhere along the lines. I had no idea what I was going to confront when I arrived. I even brought my pole vaulting pole thinking I was going to join the track team. But what I did see, I wanted. A hands-on engineering program, a chance to jump right into work. I was 100% certain what I wanted to do with my life at that point, and as it turns out, I was 100% wrong. This school fundamentally changed my life. The classwork, of course, was challenging, but it was the ideas and the people I interacted with at school and work sections that significantly opened my eyes to the pathways available to this nerdy kid from Buffalo, New York. I started hoping to build circuit boards. I left an entrepreneur, hoping to build businesses. And this path has led me here today, almost 40 years later, standing in front of all of you, wondering what amazing journeys lie ahead for each of you. But Dr. McMahon didn't ask me to come here to talk about me. He asked me to come impart some wisdom on this esteemed group of future leaders. So you know, wisdom is something you're asked to give when you're over 50 and you're not in jail. Old and wise, I think, is the phrase people use. You notice they don't say young and wise. Maybe you'll get wise beyond your years, but that means you're saying something interesting, but the old guys like us think you're making it up. But age does have some advantage if one is paying close attention. And in my line of work, one of the few things I still get to do is work with talented young people like you and following their choices and observing the outcomes that result from those. It should not surprise you that your life journey is the net sum of all the choices that you make along the way. What might surprise you, though, is that where most people mess up is not making the good or bad life choices, it's actually missing the choices that pass them, unnoticed as they barrel through life. You see, the good versus bad life choice thing is actually pretty clear, because the really bad choices we learned about in kindergarten. If it involves lying, stealing, inappropriately touching the kid next to you, don't do it. Really, don't do it. I smile when I hear people talk about the importance of maybe posting things in elementary schools now, like we should post the 10 Commandments, the Pledge of Allegiance for the kids. Turns out, I'm not really worried about the kids. I actually think what we should be doing is posting the kindergarten rules in the halls of corporations. That would be interesting. Imagine that, right? Don't talk when other people are speaking, no bullying, be on time, keep your hands to yourself at recess. These are the things that actually I think would be more helpful in the corporate world. Now, the hard part is not choosing the good from the bad. The really hard part is knowing when you actually have a choice. How to be aware enough to see the passing forks in the road, the off-ramps, the on-ramps of life when you're speeding down the highway with our eyes so fixed on the road ahead. The hard part is how to not be on autopilot or operating some default set of unconscious assumptions about the real options in life. How to not have a life full of blind spots and missed exits. And right now is a pretty good time to be talking about the default assumptions in life because graduation is the beginning of a very different stage in life. It's so much more than beginning your next 30-year work section. From now on, you are in charge. You get to steer. Life really is about the journey and the paths you choose to follow. So I'm going to take a few minutes this morning to make sure you're aware of some of the bigger default assumptions out there so you can be sure not to miss them, and you can decide if they might open up some new directions for you to consider. Maybe one of the biggest blind spots to try to avoid is to unconsciously try to live somebody else's idea of your life. Try to avoid this one. It sounds obvious, but it's way harder in practice. We are layers and layers of expectations and norms from our friends, from our teachers, our parents, social media, movies, and it takes really hard work to peel them back and connect with the real version of ourselves underneath. The defaults here involve things like career paths, staying on track, not falling behind, chasing titles to impress friends on social media, and it's not going away. Today it may be about getting a promotion, but it'll become about, are you in the right relationship? Do you live at the right address? Are you a member of the right club? It never stops. If there's one thing I would hope you take away from today, it's this. The day you stop worrying about what other people think is the day you will begin living your life. I'll say that one more time. The day you stop worrying about what other people think is the day you begin living your life. On that day, a new set of ideas will settle into your head. Some will be loud and clear, some will be more subtle hints at things that fill you with energy. It hit me when I was at Kettering, right after starting my first little business from my dorm room. Since then, I've had moments where an opportunity came into view, and each time I asked myself two questions. One, can I tolerate the worst case scenario and really think it through? Two, will this be an interesting life experience? That's led me to quit a fancy consulting job and start my own company right after business school. It also led me to running a wedding planning company despite not actually planning my own wedding. Because when you really own your life, and this is important, you're far less likely to take a job that looks good but makes you miserable, or buy things you can't afford. You won't hang out with supposedly cool people who drive you crazy. Life is just simpler when the person you need to impress is the one in the mirror every morning. Now, despite our best efforts here, we will still make mistakes. For example, let me give you a more honest version of my bio that you will never read anywhere else. It goes like this. While at Dow Jones, Mr. Bascobert launched the Wall Street Journal Travel Club. The product was a miserable failure, and it cost the company hundreds of thousands of dollars before he conceded defeat. In the early 2000s, Paul had an opportunity to acquire a new business called LinkedIn. He declined, saying, "This business will never scale." Paul is a proud graduate of Kettering University, where he got a 23 on his first exam in electromagnetic fields. His professor added that was curved from a 19. According to Mr. Bascobert's mother in the crowd, Paul was expelled from high school during his sophomore year. He declined to comment further on his dating failures, et cetera, et cetera. If you think this is where I say it's important to make mistakes, you would be wrong. Mistakes suck. They are horrible and sometimes fatal. Try not to make them. But when you do, and you will, if you own your life story, you will recover from mistakes so much better, and you won't get bogged down uselessly blaming others or paralyzed by what someone else will think. You'll make changes without fear, and the options in front of you will include things that would be absolutely terrifying to people who are living somebody else's life. Here's a test. It's Kettering. There's going to have to be a test if we're together for 20 minutes. There are two phrases you will never hear from someone who owns their life. The first is, "That's just who I am." The second is, its close cousin, "It is what it is." Those are give-up phrases. When somebody says, "That's just who I am," they've given up on themselves. They've decided they are no longer in control. They put the car on autopilot, they've crawled in the back seat, and they're taking a nap. However, if you say, this is who I choose to be, it forces you to acknowledge that you're involved, that you've considered the options, and you've said, yeah, I'm good with this version of me. Similarly, it is what it is means you've given up on the world around you and your ability to change it. But if you say, it is what I've allowed it to be, it forces you to acknowledge that there is a choice, and maybe you will consider getting involved. So take the time to deeply examine what's dictating your next move. Be sure it's your voice. As an experiment, in your mind, choose different directions and ask yourself, who's going to notice? Who's going to care? And then decide for yourself if that's the person or voice you want directing your life. And then you can make a conscious choice. Another default setting or assumption is to allow the scope of your life, your aperture on the world, to shrink over time. Push hard against this one. Up to this point, much of your life has been programmed for you. Take these classes, read these books, show up at this internship, try this vodka punch. If you were like me, the last 5 years have dramatically opened your eyes to a broad range of ideas and people. In fact, the educational system that you've been a part of for the last 2 decades has systematically exposed you to new ideas and people. However, commencing today, that external programming will cease. But the rest of this magnificent world out there awaits you, and it's not coming to you. You have to go greet it. There are amazing places, experiences, and people out there, but there's no degree requirements for life to compel you to go out and engage in it. In fact, as we get older, even in the next few years, the pressures of life start to close in on us. And time, resources get tighter, and your life starts to get more complicated. So it's easy to settle into routines and patterns. You rotate through your favorite meals and stop trying new foods. You fall in love with a vacation spot and stop exploring. We have our friend groups, so we stop meeting new people. We become more certain in our ideas, so we stop listening to different points of view. And our lives can begin to close in around us. Dylan Thomas, in his incredible poem, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, encourages us to rage against the dying of the light. So take the job that pays less and gives you more freedom to grow. Try a startup or a small company at least once. Skydive, scuba dive, cliff dive. Spend a weekend in Paris and Pittsburgh. Don't just play the piano, learn to play a Chopin nocturne. I guarantee you it will change your life. Forget small talk. Really get to know people. Learn through their experiences. And if you start now, you will find that over time, curiosity and fearlessness will become your default settings. And those subtle voices, they will get louder because your aperture on the world will grow and you will be far more certain of your place in it. The last choice I would suggest to consider is to serve something greater than yourself. School can leave us with a pretty healthy dose of individualism. We compete every day for grades. We really do harvest what we sow. You probably didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the greater societal purpose of thermodynamics or microeconomics. Although I did notice there's a cannabis store up the road, so maybe some of you did. But you commence the next stage of your life, try to suppress the default assumption that if it's good for me, then that's good enough. My suggestion is not that you don't pursue things that are good for you, just don't stop there. Because I have found that when I serve something other than myself, I become part of something bigger. My life is fuller and more complete. Empathy and care for others is one of the instincts that defined us as humans, forged hundreds of thousands of years ago, as natural selection chose groups who helped each other over the individuals who tried to go it alone. Now, natural selection also rewarded gangs of these nice, empathetic people for attacking their neighbors and stealing all their food, but we won't go into that today. Skeptical? Here's another test. Next time you're going through a checkout line, say something nice to the person behind the desk. Notice a pin or a shirt that they're wearing. They will smile, and you will feel better. It's a gift you can give yourself every day, And if it doesn't make you smile, well, then you failed the test, and maybe you're not, in fact, descended from humans. As you may already sense, the pursuit of things like vanity, wealth, ego, don't offer much in return. And worse, they have insatiable appetites and will crowd out the rest of your life. Everything you heard about the more you have, the more you want is absolutely true. I've seen this one many times, and I suspect you all have seen it as well. This doesn't mean you have to go work for nonprofits or join the Peace Corps. Those are totally fine. But the point is, whatever path you choose, if you're spending your time and energy with people and organizations where you find meaning and purpose, I guarantee you will commit more. You will contribute more. You will receive more in return. And even bad days will make you smile. I ran a search marketing business at one point, but in my mind, I was helping entrepreneurs turn their hobbies into employment and fed their families. That wedding software business was helping millions of couples plan one of the most wonderful days of their lives with confidence. Today, I couldn't be more proud to serve Reuters and the 3,300 people around the world who give so much, sometimes their lives, to ensure the truth about what is happening in the world is brought forth without fear or favor. I won't get political with you, as media has become a bit of an unfortunate pawn. I would just simply say, like good food, feed your mind with information that hasn't been highly processed or full of baloney. I would ask you to serve something greater because I believe we are approaching one of the most exciting and potentially pivotal moments of our existence. The challenges are enormous. Climate, hunger, disease, conflict, but so are the opportunities. Solar, wind, fusion to transform energy, AI and online education to harness the full capacity of human intelligence, and autonomous vehicles. Transformative biotechnology to end hunger and disease. The rate of progress is staggering and it's accelerating. So as you think about your goals for the journey ahead, remember this. What will be left at the end of our time here on Earth is the echo of our service you have given others. From great organizations we serve to the 50 cashiers you make smile, that will be your unique and enduring mark on the world long after you have left it. So in closing, fighting the default choices is hard. It's a life's work. It's not easy. It's not the normal path. But hey, that's nothing new to you. We're here at Kettering, for God's sake. We're not normal. Kettering isn't an unconscious default choice. This place is hard. Remember going through the college selection process, paging through the various opportunities and saying, oh, Kettering, look at this one. They cram a whole semester into 11 weeks instead of 16. That's nice. So you get longer breaks? No, you get to work every day that you're not in school. But hey, no distracting football games or homecoming weekends. And the best of all, you get to stay an extra year and write a thesis. If you're sitting here today, then you decided 5 years ago not to follow the convention. You consciously chose the harder path. You chose something different. So hold on to that Kettering spirit and keep digging to discover your unique paths. I wish you well in this journey. I have great optimism for our future when I look out over this stadium. Live your lives with the richness, nobility, and confidence that comes from truly knowing you are carving your own path in life. I wish you the luck you won't need, the courage you already have, and the tenacity that lives inside you and everyone who passes through this university. You are Kettering tough, and you will bend this world towards a better future for all of us. Thank you.